Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of you for being here. Special thanks to Svetlana Tikhanovskaya and Mr. Lopez for the sacrifices that you and your families have made to promote democracy and human rights. And Damon, thank you for your work as well. We had a press conference last week with Ms. Tikhanovskaya, and one of the things we talked about was the number of Belarusians who have been imprisoned. Here I have a picture of Ihor Losik, excuse me, who is a journalist who's been in prison now for over 1,000 days, who reports were that he tried to commit suicide last week. If we were going to make a poster for everyone who's been wrongly imprisoned in Belarus, we would not have enough room in this room, much less in the building. I'm sure the same is true in Venezuela. One of the issues that we had talked about was trying to encourage the State Department to appoint another special envoy for Belarus. So can you discuss why that would be important for the opposition movement in Belarus? Svetlana.
Thank you, Senator Shaheen, for this picture and that you are advocating for the Belarusian prisoners whose number is increasing every day. Every day in Belarus, about 17 people are being detained every day. And of course, designating special envoy to Belarusian democratic forces, it has extremely important meaning. We had very fruitful collaboration with Julia Fischer. She opened us a lot of doors, created a lot of opportunities for us here in the USA. She delivered our messages. She connected us with the necessary people here in the US government. And when she left, we just physically felt this lack of attention, lack of communication, lack of collaboration. And if there is a person who is like a bridge that is connecting countries is designated, it will be much more easier for Belarusian voice to be heard here in this world, to be heard in the government, because we know that this attention span is rather short, and we have to be always on agenda, that Belarus is not overlooked in this situation, that Belarus is not left for one day later. So to update information about what's going on in our country, and this way we will hope for concrete, for decisive actions from the USA. But because when this connection lost, so we are not in focus, and we can easily be like forgotten.
Well, you'll be pleased to hear that Secretary Blinken last week in his hearing said that he's hoping to have a special envoy appointed very soon. So we will continue to raise that issue. Can you talk about what the reaction of the people of Belarus has been to Putin's announcement that he was planning to move nuclear weapons into the country? And what as the opposition, you think the United States and other countries should do to try and discourage that?
So people in Belarus understand that this possible deployment is against Belarusian people's will and against our constitution. That Russia now acts as an occupying force. It's violates our national security and makes Belarus possible target. And by deploying nuclear weapons, Russia is trying to subjugate Belarus and deprive it of sovereignty. And I think that international community must demand from Russia to stop deployment of nuclear weapons and impose strong sanctions on those who are responsible for this, and of course launch a hearing in the UN Security Council about this case, and to show regime of Lukashenko and Kremlin strong reaction on this. Because the feeling of impunity is very strong now in pro-regimes countries, and we have to understand that dictators cannot be appeased, cannot be re-educated, and they understand only the language of power, and democracy has to show its teeth.
Thank you. Damon, I only have a little bit of time left, but I wanted to ask you about Georgia, because I was there the end of February. I spoke with Ken Wallach before he was headed there. And one of the things we talked about is the fact that the people of Georgia are still very interested in joining the EU and looking west. And yet the government of Georgia seems to be behind the people in supporting those efforts. What more can we do to support the people of Georgia?
Thank you for raising Georgia, Senator Shaheen. We were quite concerned in the past 10 days when the government tried to introduce a law that would restrict foreign funding to NGOs, essentially copycat laws that we've seen proliferate across the world, this one mirroring quite a bit of what was done in Russia. In response to that, you saw the Georgian people turn out in incredible numbers on the streets of Tbilisi. We sent our chairman, Ken Wallach, to Georgia on a mission to raise our concerns with the government and to bolster and support our partners. And we've seen the government step back from the brink at this moment. I think that the real issue here is understanding, as you said, the Georgian people see themselves in Europe and have made that clear repeatedly. And so our bet, our commitment, our stand needs to remain with the Georgian people across the country, including outside of Tbilisi, that organized from farmer agricultural unions to teacher groups, a much broader cross-section of society was mobilized in protecting what they understood was a beginning backsliding, a hit at their democracy. So I think investing in the people, maintaining pressure on the government not to do these types of things, and I think really keeping a focus on how to support the enabling environment and those actors to ensure a free, credible, fair election as they look towards that next year, and ultimately to have the Georgian people decide that trajectory in their future.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.